These kids move like one person. Spain's Got Talent 2026. The stage lights hadn't even warmed up yet when Mateo whispered, "If we mess up, it's okay. We've already won." No one in the audience heard him. Not the judges, not the cameras, not the thousands watching from home. But the 7 kids standing beside him did. And for a moment, their nervous breathing synchronized, just like everything else they had trained so hard to do. They weren't just a dance group. They were something more. Mateo had never planned to lead anyone. A year ago, he could barely stand in front of his own class without his voice shaking. He was the quiet kid, the one teachers described as sweet but invisible. He didn't fit in with the loud boys who played football, and he didn't have the confidence to join the drama club or talent shows. But everything changed the day Sofia fell. It was a rainy afternoon in Madrid, and the school courtyard had turned into a slippery mess. Kids were running, laughing, shouting, until a sudden scream cut through the noise. Sofia, a new student, had slipped near the steps. Her crutches clattered across the ground, and she struggled to sit up, her face burning with embarrassment as everyone stared. Some kids laughed, some looked away. Mateo froze. For a second, he felt that familiar fear, the one that told him to stay quiet, to blend in, to let someone else step forward. But something inside him pushed back. He walked toward her, slowly at first, then faster. "Hey," he said softly, picking up her crutches. "You okay?" Sofia blinked, surprised. "Yeah. I mean, I will be." He offered his hand, helping her up. She winced slightly but smiled. "Thanks," she said. "First day, and I already look like a disaster." Mateo shrugged. First days are overrated anyway. That was it. No dramatic music, no applause, just a small act of kindness. But it was the beginning of everything. Sofia wasn't like anyone Mateo had ever met. She had a condition that affected her balance, making it difficult to walk without support. But what stood out wasn't her struggle, it was her energy. She laughed easily, she spoke her mind, and somehow, she made Mateo feel seen. "You don't talk much, do you?" she asked one day as they sat under a tree during lunch. "Not really." "Good," she grinned. "I talk enough for both of us." He smiled. Really smiled, for the first time in a long time. Over the next few weeks, they became inseparable. And then one afternoon, Sofia said something that seemed almost impossible. "I used to dance," she said. Mateo blinked. "Dance? Yeah, before. You know." She tapped her crutches lightly. "I wasn't amazing or anything, but I loved it. It felt like flying." Mateo hesitated. "Do you still dance?" Sofia looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I want to." That night, Mateo couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her words. About the way her eyes lit up when she talked about dancing. About how quickly that light dimmed when reality set in. And for the first time in his life, he didn't just feel something. He wanted to do something. The next day, Mateo did something completely out of character. He stood up in front of the class. "I want to start a dance group," he said, his voice trembling. The room went silent. Then someone laughed. "A dance group? You?" One boy smirked. Mateo swallowed hard. "Yeah, me. Why?" Mateo looked at Sofia. "Because I think everyone deserves to feel like they can fly." The room fell quiet again. This time, no one laughed. At first, only 3 people joined. Sofia, Lucas, a shy boy who stuttered when he spoke, and Anna, who had recently moved from another country and barely knew the language. They weren't the kind of group you'd expect to succeed. They didn't have experience. They didn't have confidence. And they definitely didn't have perfect coordination. But they had something else. They had each other. Their first practice was a disaster. They bumped into each other, missed every beat, fell over more times than they could count. At one point, Lucas tripped and took Mateo down with him, and they both ended up laughing so hard they couldn't get up. "We're terrible," Anna said, breathless. "Yeah," Mateo admitted. Sofia smiled. "But we're together." And somehow, that made all the difference. Over time, more kids joined. Some were bullied. Some felt invisible. Some just needed a place to belong. They came from different backgrounds, spoke different languages, carried different struggles. But when they stepped into that small practice room, none of that mattered. Because Matteo had an idea. What if, he said one day, we don't try to be perfect individually, but instead move perfectly together? They didn't understand at first. But he showed them. Every movement was connected. Every step depended on someone else. They learned to trust each other completely. If one person moved too early, the whole formation collapsed. If one person hesitated, the rhythm broke. So they listened, not just to the music, but to each other. Breathing together, moving together, becoming one. Sophia couldn't perform every move. Some steps were too difficult. Some spins were impossible, but Matteo refused to leave her behind. Instead, they adapted. They created moments where the group lifted her, supported her, moved around her like she was the center of gravity. And something incredible happened. Her limitations didn't stand out. They became part of the story. Months passed. The group improved, not just technically, but emotionally. They weren't just dancing anymore. They were telling a story. A story about struggle, about connection, about finding strength in each other. Then came the audition announcement. Spain's Got Talent 2026. It felt like a dream too big to even consider. We should try, Anna said. Lucas shook his head. We're not ready. Matteo looked at the group. At Sophia. At all the kids who had found something they never thought they could have. We don't have to win, he said. We just have to show them who we are. Sophia smiled. I'm in. One by one, the others nodded. And just like that, everything changed. The day of the audition arrived faster than anyone expected. Backstage, the air was thick with nerves. Professional dancers stretched confidently. Singers warmed up their voices. Magicians practiced their tricks. And then there was them. 7 kids, holding hands, trying not to panic. What if we forget the steps? Lucas whispered. What if we fall? Anna added. Matteo took a deep breath. Then we fall together. Sophia squeezed his hand. Like always, when their names were called, the stage felt enormous. The lights were blinding. The audience was a sea of faces. The judges watched with polite curiosity. 7 kids walked out. No fancy costumes. No dramatic entrance. Just them. This is risky, one judge whispered to another. Very. Matteo stepped forward. We're not here to be the best dancers, he said, his voice shaking slightly. We're here to show what happens when people don't give up on each other. A pause. Then the music began. At first, the audience didn't understand. The movements were slow, subtle, different. The group shifted together, their steps perfectly aligned. Arms rising in unison, bodies turning as one. It was almost hypnotic. Then came the first unexpected moment. Sophia stepped forward. The music softened. She struggled slightly, but before the audience could react, the group moved around her. Lifting her, supporting her, turning her movement into something beautiful. Gasps filled the room. The performance built slowly. Each section revealed something new. A fall, caught by 6 others. A hesitation, absorbed by the group. A moment of weakness, transformed into strength. They weren't hiding their imperfections. They were embracing them. And somehow, that made them perfect. Halfway through, something went wrong. Matteo slipped, just for a second, but it was enough. The formation broke. The rhythm faltered. The audience held its breath. This was it, the moment everything could fall apart. But then, Lucas stepped in, without thinking. Without hesitation, he adjusted his movement. Anna followed, then Sophia, then everyone else. Within seconds, they were back. Not perfectly, but together. And somehow, that made it even more powerful. By the time the music reached its climax, the entire room was silent. Not because they were unsure, but because they were completely absorbed. The final moment came. Sophia stood at the center. The others formed a circle around her. Slowly, they all took a step back, letting her stand alone. For the first time, no support, no lifting, just her. The music faded. She took a deep breath and smiled. Silence. Then, a single clap. Then another. Then the entire audience erupted. People stood, cheered, cried. The judges looked at each other, stunned. I've never seen anything like that, one said. You didn't just dance, another added. You made us feel something real. Matteo looked at his team. They weren't just smiling. They were glowing. Backstage, as the noise of the crowd echoed behind them, Sophia turned to Matteo. "You were wrong," she said softly. Matteo blinked. "About what? We didn't already win before coming here." He frowned. "We didn't." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "We're winning right now." In the weeks that followed, their performance went viral. Millions of people watched, shared, commented, but the most important reactions weren't online. They came from people who felt seen. Kids who thought they didn't belong. People who believed their limitations defined them. Messages poured in. "You gave me hope. You reminded me I'm not alone. You made me believe I can try again." They didn't win the competition. But that didn't matter. Because what they created went far beyond a trophy. They started something bigger. Workshops, community groups, spaces where people could come together and feel what they felt on that stage. Connected, supported, seen. 1 year later, Matteo stood in a new practice room. Larger, filled with more kids than he could count. Some nervous, some excited, all hoping for something. He smiled. "All right," he said, "let's start." Sophia, now stronger and more confident, stood beside him. "Remember," she added, "you don't have to be perfect." Matteo nodded. "You just have to move together." And as the music began, something magical happened once again. Different faces, different stories, but the same heartbeat, the same rhythm, the same truth, that when people choose kindness over fear, when they lift each other instead of standing alone, when they move not as individuals, but as one, they don't just create something beautiful. They become it, because in the end, it was never about dancing. It was about humanity, and the simple, powerful idea that sometimes, the strongest thing a person can do, is reach out their hand, and refuse to let go.